What's good everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about Operation Rainfall and Nintendo's 180 when it comes to the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, all the way up through Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now, recently, I was featured on the official Nintendo of America YouTube channel with a nice little, I would say, like cool video promotional thing with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The video was titled What We Love About Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Why I Play. And this really struck me. This really kind of touched an emotional nerve because I've been covering the Xenoblade franchise for about 10 years now. Like, I was all the way there back when Operation Rainfall started, and I covered it on my original PlayerEssence blog channel, and I covered it on my videos as well when Xenoblade Chronicles originally came out for the Wii. And to see what has transpired from Operation Rainfall all the way to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Nintendo's 180 of the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, it honestly is like the greatest thing ever. And even if you look at it, you can not only talk about the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise and their 180 on there, but also their 180 on content creator or YouTube relations. When I first started out on YouTube and everything, Nintendo did not have the best relationship with content creators out there. And even with Nintendo content creators or people who made content on their games, it was always tough to kind of get sometimes like review codes, or it was tough to even just monetize different type of things that you were doing. It was not something that was very fluid. But even if you look at it, I almost see it like Operation Rainfall to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Also, you can also say that with the content creators and how Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it's been a 180 on everything in terms of how the treatment has been, and that's awesome to see. I mean, there's a number of things that I want to talk about here because I feel that being featured on the official Nintendo channel talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is pretty much just like the coolest thing and something that I set out to do. I guess not maybe directly by saying it, but something I would have loved if you would have told me, hey, one of these days Nintendo's going to be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with worldwide launches, with huge promotion, with, you know, super high review scores, with everything, and you're going to be a part of that. I would have been like, oh my gosh, the future is incredible. I'm Shulk. I can see everything, right? So this is something that's really cool to me. Now, for those who don't know, there was this thing called Operation Rainfall. Now, around 2010, 2011, fans everywhere, Nintendo fans everywhere around the world rallied to get 3 games localized by Nintendo. And that was Pandora's Tower, which was an action RPG, which had a really cool premise. The Last Story, which was developed by Mistwalker. It was Hironobu Sakaguchi. Very advanced Wii game in terms of what they were doing with the combat system and everything. So Final Fantasy, dude, yeah, that was a cool game. People wanted that. And also Xenoblade Chronicles. All of these games, especially with The Last Story and Xenoblade Chronicles, we really wanted those. So fans rallied everywhere because Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Europe were like, well, Nintendo of Japan is publishing those, but we don't really feel like doing that. Now, you have to remember, guys, this sounds like blasphemy in today's day because Nintendo is like the JRPG king, right? Fire Emblem and Xenoblade, and they've done so much other stuff like with Octopath Traveler and Monster Hunter Stories 2. Like, Nintendo now just loves the RPGs. But back then in the Wii era, that was not the case. Like, a lot of RPGs, a lot of these style of games did not come over, and Nintendo did not want to bring it over. So it was different. It was a different time. Nintendo constantly, like all the time, would not bring over games if they didn't have a certain sales potential, maybe. Not really sure what their reasoning was. So we missed out on stuff like Fatal Frame, Disaster Day of Crisis, Captain Rainbow, and there's way more. Plus these games here originally, right? Originally we missed out on those games and people were wondering if they were going to come over. Now, if it wasn't for the rally of support, Nintendo of Europe would have never decided to localize Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, which in turn, we would have never got the game in the US, because it did come out a full year after the European release and 2 years after the Japanese launch of the game. Now, you can fast forward all the way here to the present time. We have multiple Xenoblade Chronicles games on Nintendo systems since the Wii U, the new Nintendo 3DS. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch has pretty much all the Xenoblade games, just missing one with Xenoblade Chronicles X. We've got Pyra and Mithra and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And of course, Nintendo is marketing the game like crazy with multiple posts on Twitter and also reaching out to content creators like myself to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 so we can share the love about how great this franchise is. So it's definitely something, to me at least, that I love to see. The reason why that Nintendo has pretty much done this 180 on the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, I think they were actually blown away by the response that the game got. I think that once Xenoblade Chronicles came out on the original Wii, because remember, this was a very late Wii game. This game came out in 2012 in the US, and that was the launch year of the Nintendo Wii U. So Nintendo was already moving on from the system. Heck, pretty much the sales had already been dipping since 2010 or so with the Wii. The whole craze was kind of dying down a bit. So that was a very late Wii game, but the response from the fans, the sales of the game were extremely good, and Nintendo made a lot of money off of that game, considering that the localization was a European one. Essentially, they used the voices and everything, so it's not like they had to pay a bunch of American voice actors to change things up or anything like that. They just used what Nintendo of Europe had, and the game was already older, so it wasn't like it was a big promotion and they went out there and marketed it on TV and the Super Bowl commercials or anything like that. It's not like it was Legend of Zelda. So I think that they made a ton of money off of it, and I think that that started the chain attack to really get Xenoblade into more households and to talk about it more, which is awesome, because then we got the incredible Xenoblade Chronicles X. Then we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Then we got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country. Then we got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition with the Future Connected DLC. And then to the big one here, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So I think all of it kind of played a part one after another, and it's just beautiful to see. I think that the franchise is going to continue. I mean, if you look at what Monolith Soft has said, and if you look at the sales right now with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I think that the promotion, and I think that the people that have really helped build this franchise up from a marketing standpoint when it comes to the content creators, I know people love to talk about Trega Conroy, and I think that he's been very instrumental into getting Xenoblade into more people's hands out there with his Let's Plays and with this content and with this love for the franchise. So I think that it's just so fitting, not at this point, that Xenoblade Chronicles is now one of the major franchises for Nintendo when it comes to RPGs, right? Obviously, it's not up to the level of what we would see with a Mario or a Zelda or an Animal Crossing or a Pokemon or anything like that, right? It's not up to that level, but I think that Nintendo has now kind of put Xenoblade Chronicles up in that Fire Emblem level. Normally, we're going to see games from Monolith Soft in that type of style. Heck, even if their next game isn't a Xenoblade Chronicles game, the fact that Monolith Soft's games are now going to be a major part of what Nintendo does is the most important thing, because there was a time when there wasn't. There are, even still to this day, Monolith Soft games that Nintendo helped them make, or that Nintendo worked with them on Nintendo hardware, that aren't here in the US. Somabringer on the Nintendo DS is one of them. So there was a time when Nintendo didn't necessarily want to localize everything that Monolith Soft was doing. At least Nintendo of America didn't want to. But now at this point, because of the success of the original Xenoblade, because of the fans rallying and buying the games and everything, now we can pretty much assure that anytime that Monolith Soft does something, Nintendo is going to be right there. Nintendo of America is going to be right there to localize it. Nintendo of Japan is going to make sure that that happens, and it's going to be a celebration and a launch of a game, because the fans that are dedicated to Monolith Soft and their games and their craft have shown that they buy stuff, right? I mean, I guess it all comes down at the end of the day to the support, and that's okay. And fans just want that opportunity. I think that all of us just wanted that opportunity with the whole Operation Rainfall to say, okay, can we at least try? Give us an opportunity to buy the game. Now, if it flops and if it doesn't do well, then okay, then it is what it is. But I knew, even back then, 10 plus years ago or whatever, I knew that it wouldn't flop, because it was a unique game built by the developers that used to work on some of the greatest IPs of all time, right? These guys worked at Square Enix, stuff like Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy. There's remnants of all of that in their work. So now you have a team that split off and decided to dedicate themselves to making incredible Japanese RPGs. Like, yeah, how could that be wrong, or how can that go wrong at all? So I was very confident in Monolith Soft's ability, especially when Nintendo acquired them all those years ago, back in 2007. It wasn't a highly celebrated move, and people didn't really talk about it too much on the internet because Monolith Soft was not known as much, and Nintendo didn't pay much for them. I think it was about $1 million for them, which I think that investment paid off heavily, you know, especially with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We're coming to this point where 2 times in the NPD, July NPD, it was in the top 10. Then, of course, the August NPD, it was in the top 10. And it continues to be a game that people talk about and people share because of the emotional journey and everything, and because of what they've done in the game, how good the game is, how unique the game is. So I feel that this is just something that's a dream come true, in my eyes at least. And to see Nintendo of America, you know, putting out the tweets saying like their stories begin on the battlefield, but their fight against a common enemy will unravel so much more. Don't miss out on the emotional and action-packed journey in hashtag Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Remember, this is more than a month after the game has came out. Because sometimes before in the past, Nintendo of America would kind of just like, all right, let's just skip over this game. Fire Emblem comes out. Okay, well, it comes out, launches. Let's move on to the next thing. But even after the launch of Splatoon 3, Nintendo is still talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and reminding people, hey, hold up, look at these scores. Hey, look at this. This is a really good game. This is a Game of the Year contender. And that's what I've always wanted. I wanted Xenoblade to be in the forefront of what people are talking about when it comes to the best review scores or, you know, best games of the year. It was always seen outside of the original Xenoblade Chronicles as, okay, maybe this game isn't good enough, but, or this franchise isn't good enough, more like it, but it is. And I think that we've finally proved that with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's finally up into that echelon of games. Not saying that it's going to win, you know, the big Keeley Awards when it comes to the Game of the Year or anything, but it's in the conversation at least, and that's awesome. And that's all we ever wanted. We just wanted the opportunity to play Xenoblade Chronicles, and we just wanted the opportunity to let other people know about how good the franchise is, because the original was just so mind-blowing back in the day. So this is awesome to see. But what are your thoughts on this, guys, from Operation Rainfall to Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Immaculate 180 when it comes to Nintendo and their thought process with the Xenoblade franchise. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, your favorite memories of previous Xenoblade games. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.